you comfortable where you are right now? Good. Hold on to that feeling, because after this, you may never look at silence the same way again. Gettysburg. On the surface, it's just another quiet Pennsylvania town. Rolling fields, stone fences, and monuments standing like guardians of memory. But beneath the grass and the monuments lies something else, something restless. This was once the stage of the bloodiest battle ever fought on American soil. In just 3 days, more than 50,000 lives were claimed. Men torn apart by cannon fire, soldiers crying out for mothers who would never hear them, and generals watching hope die in the smoke of gunfire. And they say that much pain, that much fear, doesn't fade. It lingers. It imprints itself. It takes root in the soil. Visitors speak of phantom gunshots in the dead of night, faces in the fog that vanish when you step closer, cold hands brushing their shoulders when no one is behind them. Some even claimed the very ground breathes, like the battlefield itself remembers and refuses to let go. This isn't just history. This is unfinished business. And tonight, you and I will step into it together. So get comfortable, dim the lights, and listen closely. Because Gettysburg isn't just a battlefield. It's a graveyard that never learned how to sleep. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing on a quiet Pennsylvania field. The grass sways, the horizon feels endless, and for a split second, you think it's peaceful. But now strip away the silence. Replace it with the thunder of cannons, the screams of men, and the ground shaking beneath your feet. This was Gettysburg. And it wasn't just a battle. It was 3 days of hell on earth. From July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, more than 160,000 soldiers clashed here. Neighbors fought neighbors. Families were torn apart. The air grew so thick with smoke and death, witnesses claimed the sun itself disappeared behind a curtain of gunpowder. Imagine the fear of standing shoulder to shoulder with your brothers, knowing that within seconds, half of them might fall lifeless beside you. By the end, over 50,000 lives were shattered. Thousands dead, thousands more bleeding out, screaming into the night. The blood soaked the soil so deep that survivors swore the ground itself seemed alive, pulsing, breathing, remembering. And perhaps it still does. Some say the echoes of that terror never left. The cries, the gunshots, the footsteps of the fallen, all replaying on an endless loop, as if the battlefield itself refuses to let go, as if the 3 days of hell never truly ended. When the cannons finally fell silent, Gettysburg was unrecognizable. The 3 days of hell had ended, but the nightmare was only beginning. Corpses lay scattered across the fields, stacked in ditches, piled in barns, left where they fell. Horses, tens of thousands of them, rotting under the summer sun. The stench of death was so thick that survivors wrote they could taste it in the back of their throats. Farmers couldn't plow their fields without hitting bones. Blood seeped into the soil so deep, some claimed the ground itself turned black and never fully healed. Locals were forced into the role of grave diggers. Men, women, even children buried bodies for weeks. Yet many soldiers never made it to a grave. Rain washed blood down into the creeks, into the wells, into the very water people drank. Gettysburg became a place where life and death mixed in ways no one could ever forget. And maybe that's why the dead refused to stay silent. They weren't just gone, they were part of the land now. Every gust of wind through the wheat fields, every shadow at dusk, carried whispers of the thousands who were left behind. Some say if you walk Gettysburg today, the soil remembers you. The land feels heavy, the air shifts. And if you listen long enough, you'll swear the ground itself is breathing beneath your feet. The soil may have drunk the blood of thousands, but their spirits refuse to sink with it. Gettysburg is not quiet. It never was. Soldiers who should have found peace still march under the moonlight. Witnesses speak of phantom regiments, entire battalions materializing out of the mist, their muskets glinting in the moon before vanishing into smoke. Tourists walking the fields at dusk swear they hear drums, commands, even the thunder of cannon fire echoing from nowhere. The battle plays on, over and over, as if the ground itself is stuck in an endless loop of violence. At Devil's Den, hikers have reported soldiers stepping from behind boulders, dirty, bloodied, uniforms torn to shreds. They ask for water and disappear the moment you turn away. At the old triangular field, some say you can feel unseen hands tugging at your clothes, pulling you back as if the fallen want company. But the most chilling encounters are not always in the open fields. At night, wandering the narrow lanes of Gettysburg, some visitors swear they've been followed. The crunch of boots behind them, the rattle of a bayonet, the metallic click of a musket being loaded. Turn around, and nothing is there, except the feeling you're being watched by 1,000 unseen eyes. The soldiers of Gettysburg didn't just die, they stayed. And for those who dared to walk the fields after dark, the war never ended. War doesn't only scar the battlefield, it scars the living left behind. At Gettysburg, death overflowed the fields. Churches, schools, and even private homes became makeshift hospitals. The air was heavy with blood, sweat, and prayers. And for some, those cries never faded. Visitors today speak of ghostly nurses, women in long, tattered dresses, their hands still carrying bandages. their voices whispering comfort in the dark. They drift through old hospital wards and inns, tending to wounds that never healed. Some travelers at the Farnsworth house have woken to see a woman leaning over them, cool hands brushing their forehead, only for her to vanish before their eyes. At the old orphanage and Seminary Ridge, shadows are seen moving room to room. No footsteps, just the soft rustle of skirts. Survivors of these encounters often describe the same thing: a sudden sense of calm, followed by the icy realization that they were being comforted by the dead. But not all these spirits are gentle. Some say the agony of the battlefield twisted even the kindest souls. Guests have reported beds shaking violently in the middle of the night, a chilling breath at their ear, or a woman's sobs echoing through the halls. It's as if the nurses are trapped, caught between mercy and misery, unable to leave the suffering behind. In Gettysburg, the soldiers weren't the only ones who gave their lives. The nurses stayed too, and they're still making their rounds. Not all horrors of Gettysburg came from the battlefield. Some were born behind locked doors, inside the walls of the Gettysburg orphanage. In the years after the war, this building was supposed to be a sanctuary for children left without fathers, but in truth, it became a house of suffering. Rosa Carmichael, the woman entrusted with their care, earned a darker title, the Keeper. She ruled with iron fists and chains. Survivors whispered of a punishment cellar beneath the orphanage, where children were shackled to walls, forced to stand in silence, sometimes for days. The cries that once echoed there weren't the groans of soldiers, but the sobs of the innocent. Today, visitors who enter the basement describe suffocating air, the smell of damp stone, and an overwhelming weight of despair. Tourists have claimed to hear small voices calling out for help, and even the rattling of phantom chains. Shadows flit across the walls where no one stands. More chilling still are the encounters with the Keeper herself, a tall woman in black, face shrouded, who looms in the corner as if watching, waiting. Some leave with scratches across their arms, as if unseen hands reached out in anger. The battlefield birthed thousands of restless spirits, but the orphanage gave us something different. Not soldiers, not nurses, but the cries of children and the echo of a woman who became a monster. They say ghosts repeat the moments that broke them. If that's true, the orphanage of Gettysburg will never find peace. For generations, the spirits of Gettysburg have been whispered about in books and folklore. But sometimes the most chilling evidence doesn't come from history. It comes from the mouths of the living. These are the voices of people who swear they've met the dead, not in stories, not in dreams, but face to face in the fields and buildings of Gettysburg.
I was walking through Devil's Den near sundown. The rocks were glowing orange. The air was still. Then I felt a hard tap on my shoulder, like someone trying to get my attention. When I spun around, there was no one there. But what froze me was the sound. Heavy boots pounding against the rocks, running fast, circling me. I couldn't see a thing, but the rhythm of the steps, it was like soldiers charging. I swear, something was running right through me.
At Saxbridge, I leaned against the rail to take a photo. When I looked at the screen, there was a man standing behind me, a soldier in full uniform, his face pale and sunken, his eyes black holes. I whipped around, and the bridge was empty, but the air dropped, freezing cold. The smell of gunpowder filled the air, and then just for a second, I heard the rope creak overhead, like something swinging from the beams.
In the orphanage basement, the air is already suffocating. Low ceilings, stone walls that sweat with dampness. I thought I was alone. Then I felt it, a small, icy hand sliding into mine. At first, I thought my daughter had come down early, but when I looked, there was no one, just empty air. That hand stayed there, gripping me tighter until I whispered, "It's okay, you can let go." And when it finally did, I heard faint crying echo from the corner.
Cemetery Ridge is silent at night, except for the wind. I was alone when it happened. A voice right against my ear, clear as day. It whispered, "Steady, steady, fire." My heart stopped. I looked around, but the field was empty. My phone caught it too. A man's voice, commanding, urgent. The next morning, I played the recording back to the ranger. He went pale and just said, "That order was shouted here, July 3rd, 1863.
These people did not come to Gettysburg searching for ghosts. They came for history, for photographs, for a quiet walk. And yet the battlefield reached out and found them. Maybe it's memory, maybe it's trauma, or maybe the dead still refuse to leave. Whatever the reason, once you've heard their stories, Gettysburg is never just a battlefield again. They say some deaths leave echoes, some leave shadows. Jennie Wade's death left a haunting that time itself has been unable to erase. Her house, her kitchen, it remembers and it waits. July 3rd, 1863. Gettysburg was a hellscape, smoke curling into the sky, cannon fire shaking the ground. But inside her small farmhouse, Jennie Wade was baking. Just a young woman doing something ordinary, kneading dough, humming softly, unaware that the war outside had already found its way in. A bullet came through the door. It struck her, and as her life left her body, something else entered, something unseen. Some visitors claim that even now the house feels alive, almost breathing, heavy with sorrow. Doors creak open on their own. Shadows stretch across the walls like reaching hands. The kitchen, once a place of warmth, is now a shrine of lingering despair. People who have entered say they feel cold spots where she fell. Some hear soft whispers among the walls, her voice humming the same tune she sang that day. Others have seen fleeting figures near the hearth, a young woman in a plain dress kneeling over an invisible loaf of bread, only to vanish when approached. The flour on the counter seems disturbed, as if unseen hands have touched it. Even the smell of baking sometimes returns, faint, sweet, almost taunting. It's said that Jennie Wade's spirit doesn't leave. She doesn't scream. She doesn't rage. She waits, waiting in the kitchen, in the shadows, in the corners of the house where sunlight barely reaches. And if you are quiet enough, if you are still enough, you might feel her sorrow pressing against your chest, reminding you that the dead aren't always gone. Sometimes they linger, they haunt, they remember. If you've stayed with me until now, then you've walked through more than just history. You've stepped into shadows that still breathe. You've listened to the cries of soldiers who never went home, and you've felt the chill of a battlefield that refuses to rest. But remember this: Gettysburg doesn't end when the credits roll. It doesn't stop when you turn off your screen. These stories, these spirits, they linger. Some say once you hear them, they follow you. Maybe only in dreams, maybe in whispers, maybe in something more. So, are you ready to walk away, or will you carry them with you tonight? If this journey haunted you, if you felt even a fraction of what those who've stood on Gettysburg's fields have felt, then don't walk away just yet. Subscribe, join us, because there are more shadows waiting, more whispers to follow, and more doors that should probably stay closed. This is just the beginning. The battlefield is only one chapter in America's haunted past. So ask yourself, do you really want to know what comes next?